Welcome back to Round the Game, an honest conversation with people who have a unique experience to the game that we all love. Today, really excited. Have a great guest here. Over 16,000 followers on TikTok, over 875,000 likes on the exact same platform, giving out free game every single day on his page, and the next big thing in youth basketball development. Everyone, welcome to the program, Jackson. I really appreciate you being on.
Hey, y'all. Happy to be here.
I really want to let you give my audience and potential new audience members an opportunity to know who Jackson is. But before we get into your why, who's Jackson the basketball fan? How did you fall in love with the game?
That's a great question, man. We could go all the way back to the beginning. Basketball was always like my sport growing up. I played a lot of different things, dabbled in a lot of different sports, but basketball was always like my number one. My dad was a big basketball guy, so I feel like it was sort of hereditary in that way. And so it was just always sort of part of my life growing up, watching games, playing youth basketball. And then I probably hit my peak in height and talent level at about eighth grade. Stopped growing at the high height of 5'9" and sort of leveled out career wise there. But always just loved being around the game, loved watching. I went to Butler, big basketball community there. Loved being a part of those teams while I was a student. And then as a post grad, I really just wanted to sort of get back into playing more and had this idea of what if I just like went all out training to dunk a basketball. And so that's how I started my page, was trying to train and show the different workouts and strategies that I was using to increase my vertical jump, and ended up being able to do it, which was awesome. And since then I've sort of uh, dove more into training as a basketball player. And the whole point of the page is helping people who might have been in my position that I was in eighth grade and high school, where I knew I wanted to get better, but I didn't really know what I was doing in the weight room or on the court or after practice or diet wise, all these things that I sort of knew that I wanted to focus in on, but never had the resources or the expertise to really do it right. And so my page has really transitioned into that vein of like, what can I give to people who are in my shoes of high school basketball players or middle school basketball players who are hungry to get better, but don't really have the information to make it happen. So really just trying to help out where I can and provide some value to that audience. And it's been a really fun way for me to sort of stay involved in the basketball community. I still watch a ton of basketball, probably too much basketball, and so it's been a fun way to sort of geek out a little bit about the game, about training, about film breakdowns, all that kind of stuff. And it's been fun to be a part of the sort of larger social media basketball community, yourself included. It's super cool to just like meet people who have the same nerdy interests in hoops that I do, and it's always fun to talk hoops. So happy to be a part of this podcast.
You mentioned it a little bit about your aspirations as a young basketball player and how it kind of dwindled based on genetics. When you had those hoop dreams, was there someone while you were on this journey that kind of dashed your dreams a little bit, or was it just the genetic portion of it?
I think it was just in the cards, and I think also sort of a product of my situation. Like, so I vividly remember eighth grade was sort of my peak, right? And we had this summer camp that my high school team like put on for middle school players to come and like work out, and then you'd scrimmage and play. And I feel like it was sort of a feeder thing where the coaches could look at you and see like, okay, this guy's coming in next year. He might be a good fit for the freshman team or whatever. And I remember winning the MVP of that league, and then coming into the freshman year, I was like, I'm going to be a great player on the freshman team. Like, I can't wait to get all these minutes. And I didn't, and I was sort of frustrated with myself because I knew that I could play and I knew that I wanted to get better, but I didn't really know what I was doing wrong or what I could do better. And so I think that sort of indecision and not really knowing what the next step should be held me back from my full potential. Obviously, I was never going to make the NBA at 5'9". Like, that's just not a realistic goal for someone in my shoes. But I think I could have really improved as a basketball player and had a much more successful high school career had I known what I know now about training. And so again, yeah, just sort of like that lack of resources and lack of information that sort of held me back from my full potential. And it's something that I'm hoping to prevent for other people that I'm talking to on TikTok these days.
I feel like when people have hoop dreams, it falls into that category, or you run up against somebody who is just so nice that you could never achieve it.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
We had a kid in a rival school. I was a sophomore at the time. I wasn't playing JV, but I wasn't playing varsity, but I dressed varsity. And this kid, Jason Cuffey, shout out to him. He's no longer with us, but such an incredible human being. But as I knew him then, an incredible basketball player.
Yeah.
The nicest looking jump shot you've ever seen, a 38-inch vertical. He scored 29 points against us in 7 minutes of play. He only played the first quarter, and then the coach sat him. I said, "This is the greatest basketball player, maybe ever." And
Yeah.
then he was a senior then. I find out the next year that he went to Division 2, which is super respectable. But the best athlete that I have ever seen in my
Oh yeah.
life only went to D2. I have no shot. Like that's where my basketball dreams died right there.
100%. There's levels to it. And that's, I feel like in high school is where you really get exposed. Every once in a while, you come against somebody that you're playing against, or you see them play at a tournament, and you're like, wow, this is different. I remember when I was still in high school, we played a tournament. I'm from Missouri, from St. Louis. And we played a tournament in Jeff City, which is the capital. It's right in central Missouri. And OG Ananobi was still a high schooler at that time. And he was averaging like 30 a game, and it was like, oh my god, this guy, I mean, obviously fantastic athlete, and I think now obviously in the pros he's not necessarily like the go-to scorer on his teams, but it just goes to show even the mediocre offensive talents at that level are just freaks when they're playing against guys like me. It's crazy.
There certainly are levels to this. I want to talk about how you've kind of leveled up individually. I love all the stuff on your channel. You give different kinds of training to put out, whether that's weight training, whether that's plyometrics, whether that's just conditioning or shooting drills, wherever the case is. As you've kind of started this journey back to being able to dunk, what have you noticed about yourself that's changed while you're doing all of these trainings?
I think the biggest thing is that just knowing if you push yourself, you can really do things that are kind of crazy looking back. Like I'm a big goal setter. It's like my thing. So if I set something a high goal, I'm going to chase it. I'm going to go at it hard, and I'm going to try to do it the best of my ability. And I think if you have that mindset, you'll surprise yourself with the things that you can accomplish. Like if you would have asked myself in, I don't know, age 19, will you ever dunk? I'd probably say no. But then I went and I trained and I tried really hard, and it took me multiple years, but I did it. Like that kind of mindset shift can be so valuable in obviously athletics, but I think in anything, like if you just go for it and you try your hardest and you do with all the required things to make that thing happen, you can really kind of shock yourself and achieve things that you might have thought always weren't going to happen for you. Uh, and I think that's something like obviously again in training but also like in life that I've sort of discovered about myself and about training and bettering yourself in general is that like if you set something that's kind of a lofty goal, even if you don't hit that thing, you'll still surprise yourself with how much you can really achieve, which is really inspiring and it's something that keeps me going, obviously in the content creation realm but also in my own training. It's something that I chase and am so filled with a sense of accomplishment. Once you finally get to the peak of that mountain, you're like, I did that thing. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, but I did it. It's pretty cool.
I think it's would be really easy for someone in your position, post high school, post college, post grad, being able to go, you know what, it was cool that I dunked that one time, but I'm an old man now. I don't think that I'm gonna get up and do that. Was there something additional into just like who you are as a human that made you want to reach that specific goal to dunk again?
Well, I think part of it was, if I still have the video pinned on my page. The first dunk I ever got was super weak, right? It's just sort of like a little tip in off of alley oop, nothing that was gonna rattle the gym, and I wanted to do something that felt a little more solid. So I think that was part of it. Like I know I can do better than that. Come on, like let's get up there and make it happen for real. Leave no doubt. It's kind of the mindset. But I think too, just in something that I've learned about training and programming is that like elite athletes in like true athleticism will hit peaks in their training. So you train, for example, in basketball all off season. Your goal is to build muscle and build strength. And then when the season comes, you're playing so much basketball that you can't really improve in those categories that much anymore because your body is like stressed and you're running around and you're playing games and doing full practices and all that stuff. And so your peak physically and athletically is probably going to be towards the beginning of the season, and then you're just trying to maintain that all the way through the end of the season. And so the natural progression of my training too was I hit that peak of the first week tip and dunk. That was the highest I'd ever jumped. I was feeling really great physically, and then it was okay. I'm back in off season mode. I'm trying to get strong. I'm trying to build muscle so I can have that like foundation to my physical body that then I can build on and peak again at the end of last year. So after I hit that first dunk, my main goal was just like how much muscle can I build? How much strength can I build in the spring of 2025? And then I sort of rode that to another peak last December. That's like a nerdy like in-depth training programming breakdown, but that's like the mindset of what I've been doing basically.
I want to give you your flowers here, not only as a content creator, but actually someone who's doing the training. I think that you are ultra consistent. Again, not just with your post, you're posting all the time, trying to give free game, like I talked about earlier. But you are also not allowing external reasons to get in the way of your training. Whether it's travel, you don't have somebody to practice with, whether it's cold outside or raining or whatever. You were just always on this grind, like this constant grind set mentality. I have to know though. I've been in hotel gyms where, depending on who you're with or whoever's supervising the gym at the time, you could lift too hard and get yelled at. So I have to know, when you're doing these like plyometrics, when you're doing this jumping training, is there like a crazy story? Like, did you get kicked out? What can you tell me from some of those experiences?
It definitely is a unique form of training compared to your everyday Planet Fitness goer, for example. Anybody who's done like an athletic style program or a college athlete who's off season and is like back home training in their local Planet Fitness to get their workouts in or whatever, you've experienced this of like you're going to look a little silly doing your jumps and like your lunges and skips and things. But I think it's something that you have to just sort of like condition yourself to be like, this is my thing. People are going to think what they're going to think, and you try to make it happen no matter where you need to train or how hard it is to get that session in. I've done a lot of stuff outside. I think that's like a great thing for athletes to do, and like kids in general. Just like get outside and run around and like try to jump and touch high tree branches. That's fun. It's a good way to get some like training in a non-traditional form. But I think too, it's can be a little embarrassing at times. I remember we traveled a ton this last fall. My wife's in med school, and so she's been traveling for interviews. And we were in Iowa, we were in Omaha, we were been all over the map in a hotel gym, and just trying to be like mindful of the other people there who are just trying to get their normal workout in. And I'm like doing broad jumps in the corner. I was a little like cringe, but you got to fight through it. You got to get it in, and that's how you get better, man. Consistency is the key.
I'm working through a journey of my own, trying to be ultra consistent. I haven't missed. I mean, we're pretty early into the year, obviously, but I haven't missed a day so far. I've been there every day, whether it's just an hour of
That's
cardio,
right.
whatever the case is. And something I've noticed, I had gone to the gym prior to this, just like casually, like every other day,
Sure.
whatever the case is. But I'm like locking in this year.
Oh yeah.
Something I've noticed in being that consistent is that more often than not, unless you are paid to pay attention, like the other gym goers have no idea that you exist.
Oh yeah.
They're there to get
They're
their
in their
lifts
own world.
in. They're in there to get the cardio in. You could fall flat on your face and they will not even know you were there.
Yep.
So if
Or
you are
they'll look over
embarrassed,
and they'll look right back. And so, like 2 seconds of interaction or noticing and then it's over. So gotta fight through it.
if you are concerned about somebody judging you, they don't even know you exist. Just do the cringy thing. Keep going.
100%. 100%. I love that for you, man. Keep it up. That's a great way to start the year.
Something I love additionally about your content, not only seeing you be able to demonstrate the training that you're talking about, you do such deep dives into finding workouts from colleges and being able to present that to people. I think I know the reason. I actually had a conversation with Colin Hatfield earlier about this, and we kind of alluded to it. Is there a reason that you are looking at college athletics and college training programs more than, say, anything else?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, even for my own like development as a trainer and coach, is learning from people who have come before me and already done the thing. I didn't go to school for like physical therapy or any like training degree. It's just something I'm doing like in my free time because I love it. And so learning from the high level trainers who have stuff out online, they're posting TikToks about their workouts and programming. Like there's so much info out there that you can learn from and get a ton better. Like I literally knew nothing about vertical jump training, for example, when I started training to dunk. And I just like taught myself the concepts and the programming and the exercise from reading things online and watching TikToks. Like the amount people say like YouTube University, it's real. You can learn so much just from like watching people who know what they're talking about. You have to sort of sort through who seems like they know what they're talking about and who maybe is like just kind of talking. And but I think the personal growth and knowledge that you can gain from just relying on those experts in the field is astronomical when it comes to hoops or anything else. And I think college especially is because at that point the game is still semi raw, right? You've got your guys like Darren Peterson who are already pros essentially, right? And those guys are doing things that nobody else is doing. But for the dude who is redshirting on the Clemson bench or whatever, that's a guy that doesn't have too much removed from a high school athlete physicality wise. So, especially when it comes to strength training and athleticism, put yourself in their shoes of like trying to develop as a young player. And you hear time and time again college coaches at every level say that the biggest difference from high school to college and college to the NBA or pro ball in general is the physical aspect, like putting on muscle. Every NBA rookie is like, oh, is he too skinny? Like, that's a thing that every player can grow in that category. And I think the college game does a really good job of developing players in that way. So it's a great source for you to learn from and steal a couple workouts from X program who has a free guide online. Like take that into your toolbox and use it for all it's worth.
Something I also enjoy from yours is you're multifaceted. You're not just sticking in one lane. You're doing all the training that we've talked about. You're talking about giving away this free game from college programs who have been there and done that. You also do gameplay breakdowns. How how would you best describe or explain to someone who's 14 to 18 trying to make that next step into the college game how important it actually is to study film? Because it's not a fun thing to do, especially as a teenager. But how do you drill into somebody like this is what's going to separate you from another good high school athlete versus a 4-year college kid?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think speaking from my own experience, like we talked about earlier, like I was a decent basketball player at that age and then didn't really know how to get better. I think basketball IQ was a real limiting factor for me, especially as a shorter player. Like, you need to be the floor general, you need to have that knowledge of the game to be able to be effective at that level because you're not going to get by just on height or athleticism. Like, that's a non starter. So, if you're a young player who's 6 foot or under, film and trying to increase your basketball IQ is huge, especially if you have aspirations of playing at a higher level. I think, too, there's a huge difference between watching basketball and then watching film. Like, I loved basketball in middle school and high school. I watched a ton of college basketball and was a huge fan. But when it comes to learning from those players and not just being entertained by them, it's a pretty different style of viewing the thing. Uh, so something that I'm trying to do with my page is make that a little bit more accessible to people who maybe were in my shoes and didn't know like how to watch film, because I think it is a area that you can learn a ton from and improve your game exponentially. So yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's hard if you don't know what you're doing, or if your coach doesn't like have a film session. I feel like a lot of high school teams like you're just getting out there and practicing and going home. But if you can do that on your own time, you're going to be leaps and bounds above the basketball IQ of your peers.
Absolutely. I think, not to get on too much of a tangent, the coaching that you are dealt in high school is going to be super vital to whether you succeed or not, because there are just some times that you have good coaches. There's also times that it's just the English teacher that wanted an extra $2,000 for the season. And it's really
Yep.
that simple. So if you can sniff out that your coach actually loves basketball, I would cling on to that, because he's going to be the keys to he's going to give you the keys to success. And if it's just a, I'm going to do this as a way to just earn some extra money and keep kids out of trouble, then seek outside help. Kind of like Jackson, just being able to give away free game for you and use that, mold yourself to it. And then who knows? Maybe we're talking about you in a couple years playing D1 hoops somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the biggest thing too is just like guidance. I feel like I've talked a lot about it, but a lot of kids are hungry to get better. They want to get in the lab. They want to like be that dude who's getting shout outs and mixtapes and like there is a real drive behind their game and their career, but it's sometimes misplaced. You know, they're doing the wrong thing that's not really getting them better, or they want to get better but they don't know what to do. So having someone to kind of like push you in that direction, it's going to come down to individual willpower and how bad you want to put in the work and be consistent and really grind it out, and that's going to determine your ceiling in the end. But if you can have the know-how or at least the direction, it's going to make it that much easier, because then you all you have to do is work hard at that point. You know what you're doing. You just got to put in the work. So I think it's a limiting factor, like you said. If you don't really know what you're doing, or if you don't have a coach that knows what they're doing, uh, it definitely hinders your chances. And like you said, I think you could benefit from somebody who's at least kind of showing you the direction.
You put up this little counter on your videos and it says athletes helped. And I think you have a goal of 1,000, right?
Yeah, I'd love to hit 1,000. Yeah.
Let's assume that the extra 1,000, however many you have until 1,000, are watching this video. What is something that you could give them as advice? Imagine a week, whether that's in the off season or during the season. What's an ideal week look like for them?
Blanket statement: every athlete is different. You'll have different strengths and weaknesses. You're different size. You have different positions. And so the key is to work with somebody who can know you as a person and can see you play. I think that is huge. Like, I'm not going to change anybody's career right now, but also, blanket statement, I think I've been talking a lot about in season training on my page the last week or so, because it's like the heart of the season right now. I think in season, the biggest thing that you can do is try to get in the weight room 2 or 3 times a week. Like I talked about before, you want to maintain your strength and athleticism over the course of the season. Basketball is one of the longest seasons of any sport. And so that's a real piece of it if you want to be an elite level hooper. I think the other thing is outside skill work. A lot, especially of high school players, will go to practice, show up, go through the team work, and then take a shower, go home. If you can spend even 10 to 20 minutes after practice, even just shooting free throws or doing a ball handling workout, like that extra little bit of effort will help you get a lot better over the course of the season. If you even like in your layup lines before the game, treat that as like a mini individual skill work session. Get better in that 10-minute stretch. Work on your finishing, work on your pull up jumper, whatever it is. Like, pick one thing, get better at it that session, and that extra work that you put in outside of your team practices will help you get so much better. Because a lot of guys are just showing up and going home. Like, if you can find ways to carve out a little extra time here and there to work on your individual game and the things that you need to get better at, that's a huge step that you can take as an athlete, and huge for your skill development in general.
If it hasn't been clear to this point, I love your content. I love what you're doing. I think that especially being able to see your last 6 months in particular on TikTok, this like meteoric rise that I've seen from you has been super cool as a mutual of yours. Super stoked for
Thanks,
you.
man.
Super excited to see what you can do in 2026. I didn't put this on your outline. I do want to ask you though, was there a moment during this like ascension that you knew that it was working? Did you like post a video and go to bed and you woke up with 1,000 extra followers? Like what was that like?
I had a pretty crazy video. It was early in the summer. It was the first couple weeks of the WNBA season. And I remember watching, this was sort of the start of working film breakdowns into my content, because this one went crazy. It was a recap of the Fever versus the Liberty. I think it was their first matchup of the season. and the Liberty had shut down Caitlin Clark that game. She was like 0 for 9 from 3 or something crazy like that. And I was watching it live, and I was just like noticing their defensive scheme that they were kind of running live. And I was like, this would be a really interesting topic to talk about. And obviously, like, she is a beloved basketball icon at this point, so that's something that people would maybe be interested in. I made a recap video that sort of broke down their coverage of her, how they played her on ball screens, things like that. And that video went crazy, and I was like, dang, this is like people like that. So at that point I had only done a couple of like sort of film breakdown style videos before, but I started working that into my content more. And I think, like I've talked about before, it is an area where you can learn a ton about the game, even if you're not an active player. I think fans like that kind of coverage. There's so much of the Stephen A. Smiths of ESPN these days that are like just kind of inflammatory, and they're just going to come on and yell about the player that gets the most clicks, but they're not going to like talk about the fundamentals of the game or the ins and outs of X defensive coverage or ball screen strategy, like those kind of like nerdy things that I love. I think there's sort of a gap there. And so I think that's part of why it did well, is because especially when it comes to women's basketball, there's a lot of chatter out there, and there's not a lot of like real hoop talk. So that's something I've tried to bring to my page, and be a place where even if you're not trying to get better, like my main audience is definitely like trying to help basketball players improve. But I think if you just love the game like I do, I hope that the stuff that I'm putting out is interesting, and like maybe you'll learn something here and there. And maybe I'll learn something along the way too. And we'll just have this sort of community of people talking hoops instead of like the drama around the game. So that was a big moment for the page, I feel like. I'd say my biggest like starstruck thing was I got a follow from Jay Billis, who was like on my basketball Mount Rushmore, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's crazy." I I really wanted to DM him, and I was like, "Oh god, he's going to think I'm like so weird." I didn't know what
Hey
to
man,
say, so I haven't yet. If you see
shoot,
this,
shoot.
Jay,
Like,
just know, let's talk, man. Let's hang out.
I'd love to be able to see you on CBS or whatever the case is, just talking hoops with Jay Billis. That'd be sick.
I would love it, man. I would love it. My wife is a Duke alum. We've got a lot in common. Come on, let's make it happen.
Really glad we were able to connect today. I think that the space is better with you in it. Again, love the content. Before we get you out of here,
Appreciate it.
got a little game, this or that. I'm going to give you different scenarios. You can only pick one. I've got 3 questions for you if you're ready.
Let's do it.
So I want you to think about this in the sense of being a high school athlete. Would you have rather been able to consistently dunk, not yamming on somebody every time, but you're a decent athlete, you're able to get to the rim a
Yep.
little bit, like 4 or 5 dunks a game maybe, or shoot
It's a lot of
50%
dunks.
from three?
Oh, three for sure. That was like my lone strength as a high school hooper. I think I was probably one of the better 3-point shooters on my team, but because I couldn't do anything else, I was not seeing the floor. And I think, yeah, that's my bread and butter. So I got to go 3-point shooting all day, all day.
Three is worth more than two. That checks out here.
Uh huh.
You you can only pick one kind of training. Both are important, obviously. But would you rather do only weight training or only plyometrics, only the jump training?
Ooh, I've really fallen in love with the weight room for my own personal life. I think it's really fun to lift weights. You can push yourself hard, you can get a good sweat going, get a lot stronger. You can change like how your body moves and feels a lot just by being in the weight room consistently. It's a tough one. The fun part of the plyometrics is like becoming more fluid in your motions, and then if you're playing, you feel different. Like you're running, you're jumping, you're feeling good, you're covering a lot of ground. Like that feels good as a player. But I think I would probably go weight room just because you can do a lot in there. And I think, especially for young athletes, strength is a key to your training. If you're hearing this, you should be in the weight room. Uh, Push yourself, and you can get a lot better, even if you're not doing all the plyos.
Now, this last one here is the one that I had alluded to you before the show. You are a Butler fan, so I have to know which one you would rather have.
All right.
Butler wins a national championship, in basketball.
Ugh.
That we get to make up for those 2 back-to-back years, but Xavier wins 5, not in a row, not some like crazy dynasty, but just 5. Or
Ugh.
you can assure that neither team ever wins one.
Oh God. This has been not this hypothetical, but that conversation has been on my mind because we played this week. So it's a upcoming rivalry game. I have nightmares. The last game that I went to in Hinkle Fieldhouse was against Xavier, and they had sort of packed the upper dome of the stadium, and they're chanting "Let's go X, Let's go X," and we were losing, and it was like, just nails on a chalkboard. I think I got to go. Give me the championship compared to never winning. I think I got to. I think I need a win.
You
We're
know what?
far from it now, but I think we need the win.
You know what? That's respectable. I'm a West Virginia fan. I don't think that I could say the same thing about Marshall. I don't know if I could handle Marshall having
Yeah,
5 national championships. So you're better than me.
the Twitter discourse would be toxic, but at least I would have something to celebrate for myself.
I think this has been a really great episode. I want to make sure that everybody knows where to find you. We've talked about your TikTok success. Where can other people find you? And tell me what you're working on.
Yeah, so TikTok is like my main channel. I just sort of recently branched out to Instagram, and it's a lot of the same stuff here and there. So pick your poison. TikTok is at Jackson Borman. Uh, Instagram page is at Jackson Borman Basketball. Um, really just working on content for like the rest of the season. Again, focused on training, weight room, shooting drills, ball handling work, that kind of stuff to help people get better at the concrete skills of basketball. A lot more film breakdowns coming. I'm really excited for the upcoming WNBA season. I'm a big women's hoops fan. I think that's going to be an awesome slate of talent. I really hope that they can get that CBA figured out because I want to see it happen. Pay those players, man. I think you can expect a lot more of that content coming this summer. And really, the point of my page is to like help you listening to this. So if you have something that you want to see on the page or a skill that you want to work on, hop on the comments and let me know. And I try to cater to the people who are there and following along as much as I can. So uh, you tell me, what should I work on? I'll put it on there.
I would be remiss if I didn't also mention that there are free trainings and free programs and the links of TikTok and Instagram for you. It's free. He's giving it to you on a silver platter. Just click the link.
That's the goal, man. Just trying to make it accessible. I have a couple things that are paid, but they're $3. So less than the price of a protein shake. I feel like I put a lot of work into this thing. So if you can help me out with that $3, I'll give it to you, man. That's all I need.
Like I said, I think it's been a great conversation. Gonna have to have you back on eventually. Love to collab
Yeah,
further.
man.
That's gonna do it for me. That's gonna do it for Jackson. Be kind. Tell somebody you love them. And I'll see you in the next one.
Barely scraping by, trying to stop puffing. I'm trying to be one of the greats.